Sorry, I thought the mic it was connected but it wasn't set up with OBS, so I was speaking and that's why it was silent for a minute there. Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. Um I thought this was okay. Apparently, there's a lot of movies in the Chucky series, the Child's Play series. I don't know which of those names it like goes under. Because there's like a bunch of movies spanning from like the 80s and 90s, and then they kind of and it gets like a bit silly towards the end, and then it goes back to like the horror stuff. I had heard about this series a bit when I was like in middle school, and I mostly this one and the one afterwards where they have like a kid or something. So I didn't know what the series was like originally. I thought it was like, pretty wacky or whatever. Because I thought it went like the original Child's Play and then this one and then the one after this, but it's actually there's like Child's Play and then two sequels, and they're all just like Chucky killing people and stuff, and then it's this one. I haven't seen the previous three. This is literally the first movie in this series I've watched. So if I sound confused about some of the characters or plot points or whatever, or things I'm surprised about, it's because I don't really know anything about it. This was really fun. It's kind of a little camp, where it's like it's a horror movie in that, it's got the killer doll thing, but it's also a romance movie where Chucky is like reunited with his girlfriend Tiffany, and she ends up getting killed and put inside of a doll, and then they end up getting married. So it's like a love story, but they're like going around in kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde way of like killing people throughout the movie and stuff. I enjoyed it. I was trying not to take it seriously. I mean, the movie doesn't take itself seriously either. It was just like kind of fun and kind of a nice break from all these other horror movies I'd been like watching and stuff. Um Okay, so I'm gonna go over my notes and things, and if I'm asking questions about stuff that are like established in the other like Child's Play movies, like the previous ones or whatever, you can just treat these as like rhetorical questions. It's fine. Okay, this one starts with there's this evidence locker. I like how it had references to other horror movies. We see like Freddy's knife glove thing and Jason's hockey mask, which is funny to me funny for me to see because I've watched only the original Friday the 13th movie, and Jason isn't even in that one. Maybe I'll have to watch the others. I've heard actually with that series, by the time you get to the third movie, then he's finally going around killing people and stuff, and I'm like, damn, that's disappointing. There's a cop that's driving in a rainstorm and gets distracted on the phone and almost ends up crashing into another car, and I'm like, dude, you're driving in the middle of a storm, you gotta like pay super duper close attention. They do give like a little bit of context of stuff from the other movies. There's this part where it's showing like Tiffany's place, and there's newspapers around that are she's collected of like showing what happened to Chucky, basically, because he's like this serial killer, I think named Charles Lee Ray, who ends up inside of like the Chucky doll, and then the other movies apparently they keep killing him and he just keeps getting magically summoned to like come back. I guess in the last movie his face was all smashed up though, because that's how he's found in this, and it looks kind of a little gross. Let's see. The opening credits is kind of interesting, where it's Tiffany. At this point, she's like still a human and stuff, and she's like fixing Chucky because he's all smashed up or whatever. It gives the opposite vibe of the old guy in Toy Story 2. When he's fixing up Woody, like that's kind of a chill scene, and a lot of people describe it as like their first experience with like ASMR and stuff, and this is like the exact opposite of that. The title song is really catchy. Actually, I liked a lot of the music in this. I'll probably have to look up the soundtrack for this as well, and I've decided, because this happens so many times in my reviews, when I'll say that and I'll be like, this had a good soundtrack, I'll have to look it up later, and I don't remember, and then I don't remember which movies I say it for, so I can't even go back. So I've decided whenever I say that out loud, I have to type in my phone the name of the movie in Spotify so I don't forget. But yeah, the music was good because this takes place in the 90s. I don't remember what year. I think it's like 1998. Actually, that might be the sequel. I don't remember. This might be mid 90s. but it does try to feel 90s, where I guess Chucky's been dead for like 10 years or something, where he's still, and they kind of do make fun of like horror movies from the 80s with this character of like he still tries to kill people with a knife, and Tiffany's like, yeah, that's like so out of fashion, or stuff about the music and whatever. But the soundtrack feels very 90s. It's nice. I think it's funny that the Chucky like doll, you know, even though there's like a grown man in there, it's still able to say lines in like the toy's programmed voice and stuff, and sometimes saying like its original lines, you know, because it's like the good, what is it, the good boy doll or something, or the good guy doll, I think is the brand that's called in the movie. And sometimes it's able to say stuff of like, oh, I'm Chucky, you better watch out, or whatever, of things that sound like vaguely like threatening or whatever. I wasn't sure at the beginning until they kind of explain it, of like if Chucky and Tiffany knew each other at all, where he's described as like easily jealous of people that try to like flirt with Tiffany and stuff. And I get it, like her, like as a human, she's like pretty hot. And then the point when I realized the movie is like, okay, this is supposed to be kind of silly, where Chucky, I think like the second person who dies, but it's like the first person Chucky himself kills, is this guy that gets suffocated, and Chucky is sitting on the pillow that's suffocating the guy, and he's just like casually talking to Tiffany or whatever. That was kind of funny. I think that's part of the reason that makes this movie fun, is just their dynamic of like becoming a married couple, and they get into arguments, but they're like going around killing people and whatever. It just makes it fun, and the puppets are so expressive, like especially the mouth movements. I'm surprised. I expected the mouths to be very like, you know, just kind of being able to go up and down, but they're actually able to move like inwards a little bit, the lips, to show like different sound. You know how your mouth moves when you say like the letter O, and how the lips like get closer together? They're able to do stuff like that. I think it's really cool. I looked in the credits, there's probably at least like 10 puppeteers for this movie, and it really shows. And it's especially interesting because there's scenes where like the characters are crawling or they're walking, and I'm like, how do you do that? You know, I mean, it does look a little weird. Like there's parts where Chucky crawls around, and it kind of does look like the way a toddler would crawl. Like, it does look like it's almost a real person. I almost assumed it was like a small child or something. But then there's a part where Tiffany's walking and she kind of stumbles a little bit, you know, of trying to walk. But I feel like that also makes sense, because it's like, I don't know, walking, if you had the ability to walk inside of like a doll body, it would probably be a little stumbly anyway. But yeah, the puppet stuff in this is really cool. I think I've just started to pay more attention to that. Ever since I've been like getting back into the Muppets and stuff. But I didn't really know what Chucky was like as a character. He's actually really funny. I'm so glad these movies ended up getting, I guess, like really weird. I'm assuming the previous ones aren't this weird. I assumed they were like standard like slasher movies or whatever. And I totally got it, like, as soon as I heard Chucky talk, like, the way he sounds, but also the kind of things he say, I'm like, okay, I can see why in the TV series he's voiced by Mark Hamill. That sounds like it would fit. I do feel bad for Tiffany as a character throughout this, though. Like, when she reunites with Chucky, she asks about, like, she thought he was going to marry her, and he actually laughs at her about it. It's like an interesting dynamic where it's kind of, it is like a toxic relationship where they're like lovers. Like, he does care about her, but he also does treat her like shit a lot of the time. And she is definitely a bit like, I mean, she's not like a completely good person. She is going around killing people and stuff. She is like a little bit softer than Chucky about some things. Like, throughout the movie, their companions are these teens that are running away from the cops. I thought the teens weren't going to be important, and they're going through their own love stuff, and Tiffany kind of feels bad for them and stuff. I think she has a soft spot for, like, romance and things. And the teens, they're okay. I did feel kind of bad for them because, like, Chucky and Tiffany are, like, killing people throughout the... It's like a road trip movie. And the teens keep getting blamed by everyone, so they're on the run, and they don't even know the dolls are alive for, like, most of the movie. And but I mean, it also does kind of make sense in that the dolls need these teenagers, their names I think are Jade and Jesse, to be alive, to take them to a cemetery. They have to go get the magic amulet so they can like transfer themselves into humans or whatever, the dolls. So they're doing stuff of like killing these people also that are getting in the way that could like stop their journey or whatever. Sometimes it does come off as like they're being nice though, of like the specific people they're taking out. Like there's a part where this like couple steals the teens' money and then Tiffany goes to like kill them or something. There's just something, I don't know if it's the height difference or whatever, of watching like human Tiffany with doll Chucky that reminds me of like Conker and Barry from Conker's Bad Fur Day. Something I like in horror movies and stuff, or if it's like a movie, it doesn't even have to be a horror movie where someone is watching a specific movie on screen that like relates to stuff that's happening in the current movie's plot. Like Tiffany watches Bride of Frankenstein right before Chucky ends up electrocuting her, and it's the part where the bride screams at Frankenstein, and some of the lines I think from that scene end up in this movie as well, because that's the whole point with the title of like Bride of Chucky. It's like Bride of Frankenstein. But watching that scene with Frankenstein made me a little sad, because I actually had just watched Bride of Frankenstein myself like earlier this month, and you know, the bride only shows up in the last 4 minutes of the movie, which kind of sucks, but also that Frankenstein just wants someone, you know, to love, and as soon as the bride sees him, she screams, and he realizes that she hates him. I'm just surprised, though, that Chucky did end up killing Tiffany. Not surprised that he kills her. It's, like, very obvious that he's going to do it, but that he transferred her into a doll immediately afterwards. I thought he would just kind of leave her for dead or something. Like, it's probably a revenge thing, but also, like, to force her to help him and stuff. But now that means they're, like, stuck together. Like, if they couldn't turn back into humans, which is exactly what happens at the end, they don't get revived. I think they both just die, actually. Or Tiffany's actually near death, anyway. You know, they'd be stuck together as these, like, sort of immortal dolls, in the sense that they can keep being brought back and put into these dolls and stuff. Because the doll that Tiffany gets put into is actually this brunette doll it's kind of cutesy looking with a wedding dress, and I thought it was interesting that once Tiffany ends up inside it, the doll's face completely changed. It actually kind of becomes a little bit ugly, if I'm honest. Where it looks kind of creepy. I did like that we got the song Call Me by Blondie when Tiffany is like customizing the doll after she gets like put inside of it. I do like the look of the leather jacket over the white like wedding dress and stuff. That's a cool vibe. I feel like I always kind of have a soft spot of that though, of like a leather jacket over a dress. It just looks kind of cool. I was gonna write, like, where did she get the doll-sized leather jacket so fast? But the thing is, she's, like, a doll collector that has all these dolls. And it's kind of funny because there was already a bunch of, like, blonde dolls that she owned, so I just assumed she was gonna be in one of those. But then the wedding dress doll, she ends up dyeing the hair of it. You know, it's a good thing she has her own, like, aesthetic and stuff, because I'm imagining if you're putting, like, lipstick and painting the nails of the doll onto a doll and dyeing its hair and stuff, you probably can't ever like reverse that or anything. There's a line where Chucky, I guess he doesn't know about Martha Stewart, where he's just like, who the fuck is Martha Stewart? But the line delivery of it just made that line so much more funny. One of the guys that ends up getting killed ends up with all these nails in his face. I swear that's like a reference to a horror movie villain. Like Chucky even makes a nod to it of like, why does this look so familiar? But I don't remember what character it is. I'm curious how these dolls work where they're so physically human and stuff. It's kind of crazy. I'll give some examples. I have it throughout my notes. They're strong enough to lift a human body. They have the ability to cry, and there's like actual water that comes out. Or at least Tiffany can. I don't know if Chucky can. The Chucky doll is apparently anatomic. It's got a penis. I don't know why I can't speak today. But isn't it like, you know, he's the good guy doll that's like designed for children, why the hell is that anatomically correct? Okay, there we go. Now I can say it. Sometimes I stumble on my words a bit. Like, I'd expect that maybe out of the doll that Tiffany's in, because it's like a wedding doll or whatever, but why is the children's doll anatomically correct? The dolls fuck in this movie, which I didn't like that. You don't see anything. Also, it wouldn't really look like much. They're made out of plastic anyway. But that's weird. I didn't need the dolls fucking in this movie. But it is plot important, because I'm not kidding. Tiffany gives birth at the end of this movie to a doll from, you know, her doll body. Like, she gets killed and then gives birth, and the dolls are able to bleed and stuff. Like, she literally bleeds out and stuff after this, like, baby is born. I would have just assumed it was like a joke ending or something, but then they have a child in the next movie. Also, their baby's born with like pointy teeth for some reason. I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't question how these dolls are able to like give birth. Like, I knew they had a kid in the next movie, but I just assumed, you know, it was just a doll that ends up being sentient or something. I mean, I'm hoping they don't kill a child just to put a doll in, I mean, to gain a kid and like put it inside of a doll. That would be kind of messed up. But I just assumed it would be like a child, like a doll designed to look like a child that they would have like magically brought back to life. But I guess it's neither of those, at least according to how this movie ends, because she's just able to give birth to a doll. You know what? I'm not even going to question this anymore. This movie's already weird enough. Hold on, I have to scroll through. I do think it's kind of funny that the teens don't really care about the dolls too much. They just know, like, okay, we have to send them to the cemetery and then we get paid money because they're like trying to run away together or whatever. They could have left the dolls inside of the car, but then they end up just taking them with them into their hotel and stuff. Probably like to keep them safe or whatever. The setting for the ending is pretty cool though, of it's like a graveyard in the storm, and the dolls do end up getting the amulet or whatever, but they don't end up they want to like transfer their souls into the bodies of the teens. Like sorry, my friend is like messaging me like crazy. Give me a second. Oh, she's asking me what Pikmin are. I guess I have to explain them. Sometimes I have friends where they'll respond. I'll send them messages on Discord and they'll respond like a week or like 2 weeks later or something, and they'll send me like a response to every single thing I said at once, and then I'm just on there for a bit. So let me just finish this. But yeah, the setting's cool. They want to transfer their souls into the teens. I think that's kind of interesting. It is just kind of funny watching someone being held at gunpoint by a doll, you know? Because it's not like Chucky has the strength of like a human adult or anything, or at least I don't think so. There's a part that is kind of funny though, where one of the teens, she has to throw a knife back to Chucky, and I'm surprised she doesn't just like throw it at his head or whatever. Maybe she worried she would have gotten shot. She does end up like a little too scared, and I'm like, I know there's a serial killer in there, but like, this is a doll. You could like kick it through a football goal or something if you needed to. Chucky screaming when he saw his own corpse, which is just a skeleton at this point, kind of did get a chuckle out of me. And then there's a part right before they actually shoot him where he yells of like, I'll come back, I always come back. And of course the first thing I think about is FNAF. But I'm glad that the teens, they were allowed to go home. I know we didn't talk about them much, but they're not, you know, the dolls are like the real stars of this movie. I'm glad they were allowed to go home and they didn't end up getting arrested, because the entire movie the police are like looking for them and stuff. Jade's uncle is like a cop, so he at the beginning of the movie has all these other police, he's like paying them extra to keep an eye on her or whatever, because they weren't killing anybody. I mean, the only person I think they actually kill is Chucky, you know, because like the dolls were killing everybody, and they're so lucky that there's this old guy, I think he's also a cop, that ends up seeing Chucky, you know, alive. He's like trapped in the grave or whatever, but like as the doll, and I guess he knows about it, where he's just like, okay, the guys at the station aren't going to believe this, but he, you know, he lets the teens go. But yeah, then Chucky dies at the end anyway. So it's someone that, like, I guess knows enough to believe, like, okay, yeah, Chucky's the one that, like, killed all these people and stuff. And I don't know if Tiffany completely dies at the end. Like, she gives birth, but, like, she's already been tossed inside of an oven where she gets all, like, burned and stuff. I think she gets, like, stabbed. I just assumed she was gonna die, but I'm assuming they're gonna be brought back somehow, maybe by their weird doll baby. Or I'm curious how it's gonna end up looking the way it does, or if it has the ability to grow, because, like, I think that thing was born bald, but I remember it has, like, really fluffy hair in the next movie, which I'm gonna go downstairs and watch that right now. I actually left the TV on and everything. I just came to record this really quick. But yeah, this movie's kind of just what I needed in terms of, like, horror movies. You know, because usually I don't watch any, like, scary ones. I usually just watch, like, Halloween things or whatever, like Coraline and stuff. But this is kind of nice. I mean, this is probably what I should have gone through first instead of watching all the, like, classic slasher movies and stuff. Because this is just, like, it's a horror movie, they kill people, but it's also a comedy. I mean, besides the fact that they're, you know, killer dolls. I mean, killer dolls can be scary. Like, I've never watched Annabelle, and I refuse to. I'm actually surprised they don't make a joke to Annabelle. Oh, that'd probably be in the TV series, huh? Or, like, the newer movies, because there's, like, a movie from 2013, movie from, like, 2019. They even, like, remade, Child's Play, the original one, but I don't like the design they have for Chucky, because they gave him red eyes, and it looks kind of bad, and the doll looks, like, less scary. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Bride of Chucky. It was fun. It was pretty goofy. It was, like, pretty much what I expected, actually. And I'm assuming the sequel where they have a child, I think it's called Seed of Chucky or whatever, is probably going to be even worse. Probably even more existential. I just feel bad for whoever the kid is, of you're, like, born a doll, that's all you know, compared to your parents being, like, humans that are put into dolls and stuff. Or just, I'm assuming you're, like, trapped as a child forever. That probably has to suck and stuff. But we'll go see how that goes. I saw that the scores listed, you know, on streaming services, they'll have the scores of, like, the Rotten Tomatoes thing or whatever. It keeps getting lower the further you go in this series. Up until this point, I don't know how the other ones are, where they go back to being, like, just horror and stuff. It's like they almost just reboot it from here. So this will probably be worse, but that means it'll probably be funnier. We'll see. All right, bye. Oh wait, no. I was gonna say, this is I think from 1998. I think the next one's from, like, 2004. So we're probably not gonna get the cool 90s soundtrack anymore. I'm a little disappointed. All right, bye.